Oh no, hold on, we're live. We're live. Let's rock and roll. Oh, okay. Good morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are. Welcome to NerdTube, and it's time to talk about Star Trek: Strange New Worlds, Episode 5 of Season 2, Charades. Now, I am the co-host of the most today. My colleague will be back in a moment to basically give us a play-by-play, and that will be Major Rage. He's just having a little technical issue right now. I am the Birdman, Boko Haram, and here we go. Welcome back,
Sorry
mate.
about that.
How you doing?
Sorry. I'm doing great. How are you tonight, Zam?
Yeah. Welcome back. Welcome back. Yeah, I'm all right,
So,
man. I'm all right. Just enjoying Strange New Worlds for what it is. Thoroughly enjoyed this particular episode. It was very different. The only way I could describe it is a body swap episode with one person. Uh, but yeah, fantastic. I love Star Trek comedy when it's done well, and this was definitely that.
I agree.
Good stuff. Good stuff. How about yourself? What do you think?
I enjoyed the episode. Like you said, the humor was done well. To me, I got a Three's Company vibe off the whole thing with the elaborate deception. There being a kind of a dinner party. I don't know. That's seemed like from what I remember of watching reruns as a kid, they did several episodes where there were parties or dinners and stuff on Three's Company, and just fun with the elaborate deception, like kind of a sitcom feel. And the sci-fi element took a backseat and was part of the B plot, which in and of itself was still character driven.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah, it was very unusual. And I just want to bring up certain things now before we break it down. But this entity they found, this a new alien race, that should be the biggest deal of all. Like this is not a normal thing they found. But because of what happened to Spock, that ended up being the major issue of this plot. And this new entity, this first contact, all of that ended up being the B plot or the C plot, even. And because it wasn't a normal alien race. It might have been an alien species that have evolved into energy or something like
Right.
that. I mean, like the way it was able to heal Spock as well. There's so much you could learn from them. It was a massive deal, and yet it wasn't the big issue of this episode. It was just about the calamity of Spock being human. And I've always had an issue with this because he's half fucking human as it is. People assume that he's full Vulcan, and he isn't.
Mm-hmm.
And it's weird in the way that by being full human, he's unable to suppress his feelings still, which is weird because Vulcans do have feelings, but they just suppress them. Anyway, comment here from Daniel Vance. Happy birthday to sorry, I just got rid of it by accident. Happy birthday to Patrick Stewart, of all
Oh
people.
wow.
He's 83 years old. Well, and the alien race understood sex but not race, racist aliens. Yeah,
Well,
and you'd have thought the Vulcan part would have been the more dominant part of him. I mean, if he was turned full Vulcan, people wouldn't have noticed. Or
basically.
maybe there are. Look, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying there's. I don't think Spock is fully unable to show human characteristics because we've seen those moments here and there, even under Leonard Nimoy. Most famously, when he with the Kim Cattrall character in Star Trek Six, when he was so pissed off with her betrayal that he slapped the gun out of her hand. It was fucking fantastic. I love that moment. But yeah, this. Yeah, but yeah. Anyway, I'm yabbering on. Let's go.
All right. I'm taking over.
Yes, yeah. So
All right.
you're always in charge, mate. I'm just
Nope.
being the motor mouth that I am. No cousin Cheeto today. Unfortunately, he's saving lives, and so he can't join us.
He will be missed, but we're going to press on without him. So we're going to get to
He'll
the
be
fight.
missed, but he'll be missed, but he will be forgotten. I mean, not forgotten. Maybe.
Not forgotten.
Right.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Okay, so we start this week's episode with Chapel's log. The Enterprise is en route to Vulcan to go investigate a strange energy reading on the surface, above the surface of the planet Carovia, which is at the edge of the sector. Their ancient civilization vanished mysteriously. Enterprise is running at sub-impulse speeds, and this has created a lot of downtime. Nurse Chapel is using that downtime to prepare for her interview for the fellowship that they brought up earlier this season that she applied to on Vulcan.
No. Yeah.
So after prepping with various members of the crew, her friends, she ends up at the lounge hanging out and having drinks. When the subject of her awkwardness with Spock comes up, we cut to Spock and get his log. I
want to add now, like, you see her that she likes to hang around with her friends, have a laugh, have a joke, all of that. She's still obviously career motivated, but why the fuck would you want to work with Vulcans? Your downtime is going to be the most depressing shit ever. When you're not fucking working with a bunch of, sarcastic dickheads. You're going to end up, in your free time, you're going to be around a bunch of people who have no concept of what fun is, or having a joke, or having a laugh, as we saw with Spock, whilst he was still mainly in Vulcan form, when he was sitting around the table with his crewmates, who were whole laughing their heads off, and he's just there, stone-faced.
Fascinating.
Yes.
Apparently it's a huge reaction from a Vulcan, but nothing to the human's frame of reference. So
yes,
but definitely tries to act more Vulcan than human. But we're gonna get that contrast this episode, and it's fun. So he's been suppressing his emotions with various techniques that Dr. M'Benga has been suggesting. He's learning to cook from Captain Pike, but he can't smell the herbs due to his nasal suppressants, something that they originally brought up in Enterprise. They'll even mention it again in a different context later in the episode.
He's a clean freak as well, isn't he?
He's a clean freak again too. Yeah, we that scene where they show his various triggers. We get the scenes where he goes to the bar, and like you said, he was awkward with the joking crew members. We find out that he's got to have the Vishal dinner with T'Pring and her family soon, which is a ritual Vulcan dinner that precedes the wedding ceremony. It's kind of a formalization of the engagement, it would seem like. But he can't focus on the briefing in the next scene, and he explains this situation to the captain. The captain tells him, or asks, are you going to be okay for the mission? He says he will be. Spock's going to be flying, but the mission to go scan the energy reading. But he's going to have a passenger. Cut to the next scene, and it's Chapel. Surprise, surprise.
Yeah.
And
before you continue, there's a comment here. I enjoy the order of Vulcan lifestyle. People who say what they mean and facts counting. Sounds like heaven. I think what it is Vulcans are very good at being assholes. They're very good at sarcasm. And I don't know if it's necessarily saying what they mean, but they have to be it's more like, if I'm not condescending, I'm not being a Vulcan. And sometimes just being a little bit humane and maybe a bit more relaxed,
having some tact.
Like when what's her face? What's his wife's name, or his fiance's name?
His fiance is T'Pring, and her mother is T'Pril. And I don't think they named the father. If they did,
well, the father at one point, appreciated the food that was given to him, and like the wife was saying, "How dare you?" I mean, condescended is human and all that. So they have to be shitty, and I think it's almost, and so I don't find that genuine. because they feel them. I think Vulcans feel very superior, and for that reason alone, I think they're not as honest as you would like to think they are. I think they they haven't got like they haven't got this not empathy, but they can't relax. Like they're unable to. They're too stiff. They don't know what enjoyment is. They have to be shitty, and I find that disingenuous. Anyway, sorry, Mage, let's go.
No need for sorry. So on the shuttle, Nurse Chapel and Spock are being awkward. He asks about the fellowship, and she's saying she's hoping to find lost medical technology on this mission that'll help her chances of getting admitted. But she brings up the fact that she feels like he's been avoiding her. He's kind of saved by the bell when the computer tells them that it's time to do the scans. It kind of kicks in on its own. Like, why did they even have to come? They determined that the anomaly is actually a rupture in space-time, and almost immediately gravimetric radiation starts disabling systems. The steering is compromised, and they skid into the anomaly. Spock wakes up in sickbay. He was injured but miraculously healed. The shuttle was on the surface when it crashed, but now it was found in space next to Enterprise. But
did you have a feeling that this was going to happen?
Because at first, the way they did the shot of his hands, like the camera angle made his hands look small. I thought there was going to be Spock got turned little and they were going to be doing Rascals over again. I
was thinking that. I generally thought that he was. I mean, it's funny in a way, but I don't think anything was necessarily given away to me with all the trailers. Maybe, I'm not sure, but I thought to myself, he's human. I was like everything seemed like the way things were portrayed before they gave it away. I thought to myself, he's human. There's a good chance, and then boom, he was.
They were empathizing his Vulcan nature and really pointing it out. So, no, that was good foreshadowing, and I don't know why I was going some silly route with it in my mind.
Yeah,
especially since they've already done that episode. But yeah, he's been made human. And that's going to be our humorous situation for this episode. We get the credits, and afterwards, Lon and Una go to investigate the shuttle, which has been completely repaired, even detailed cleaned, Una says. But they find something like a piece of alien artifact or tech, and they take it back to the bridge, and Uhura thinks it's a calling card. She gets information on how that she uses and ends up contacting the Korovians. They inform her that they repaired and made remediation for the damage to the shuttle when it crashed. They made Spock the same as Chapel because he was different. They ask, Pike asked for them to fix him, and they refuse and disconnect the call. I know. Just hang up on them.
And the alien
no further contact is needed. Like, don't call us, we'll call you.
Yeah, there was something very cool. It was very unusual about all of that. Like, even though they're not a dangerous species, and they are willing to take responsibility for their action. But at the same time, they don't want to have any communication either. It's very unusual. And I like their interactions as well. Like, okay, we made a mistake. You guys fucked up, but at least we fixed you. Now fuck off. I like it.
I loved the bits where they're trying to get names or information out of the entities, and they just go, "You called us. You came here. Don't ask us who we are." It just felt very dickish.
Love the old TOS musical cue when Spock realized he's human. Nice I must have missed that. Really? I must have missed that. I'm going to have to rewatch this whole episode again for that. Okay.
So in sickbay, Chapel and Manga are working on a cure. That Spock reveals that he's feeling his emotions very intensely. These human emotions are kind of different. He's super hungry. And he just doesn't know how he's going to be able to do this dinner.
See, this is where, like I said about the body swap, but only one person. This is a bit like Big.
Yeah,
Remember
even
that movie,
physiologic. Yes, I mean, even kind
Yeah,
of physiologically, he's different.
because
The metabolism. He's really tasting the food, like the freak out over bacon.
Well, he's also like because he's an adult man, but he's got adolescent attributes about him. Like he's like a teenager, and this is like amazing acting, which I'll talk about at the end of this episode.
Really is.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah, the subtleties here and there is just fantastic. Yeah.
I'm speaking as a former, as current actor, because the role I landed. Acting like you are acting but poorly is one of the hardest things to pull off. It is deceptively hard to do. You would think that acting poorly would be really easy, but you're having to give it the angle of the audience tells you're trying. And it's just a lot of spinning plates all at once to do during the performance. And Peck just knocked it out of the park.
It's not acting poorly. For me, he's acting. He has to portray this personality, this character, like that is truly somebody else that he has to act like. But whilst remaining as that character, he has to be subtly different enough for us to know that that's still him, but there's something different about him. He's more human now. He's not Vulcan. He's not Vulcan whatsoever. And you still know.
I should preface, like, I thought we were talking about later on, like when they're pulling off the ruse. That was like the context I was speaking of in the performance. But right.
That too. But that too, yeah. I mean, that's all encompassed of it.
Your point's the bigger one.
Have you ever seen? Do you ever watch Friends?
I watched Friends a ton when it was new when I was little. I always was into sitcoms for some reason, even as like 8, 9, 10-year-old kid.
Well, Matt LeBlanc, I think, was the best actor of all of them, by the way, playing Joey. This idiot Joe. Because when you see him, obviously, in Lost in Space, you realize, wow, this guy's got range. So you see him playing this idiot Joey, but he's also playing an actor. And then you see him playing an actor who's acting as Joey, acting as a doctor on this TV show. It's
actingception.
He's acting.
He's a dude playing the dude who's pretending to be the other dude.
Yeah, exactly. So fantastic. I love stuff like that. It makes you really appreciate what you're watching. You know what I mean? So
it really does.
Yeah.
Spock, explains that, T'Pring's mother hates him, and she's gonna, can't find out that he's human. She hates humans. Pike told them that there was something wrong with Spock, but was very vague about it, and taught them into having said dinner on Enterprise due to Spock's injuries, unspecified.
By the way, your mate Ryan Jelly Deals. He's come in and he said, I thought Vulcan's emotions were stronger, but they train themselves to control how they express them. If they do, wouldn't human emotions be less difficult for him to restrain?
One of my main gripes, like the only kind of doesn't make sense moment, but I think it's because he's physiologically different, and the Vulcans
he's weaker as well.
They use their unique brain physiology as part of the way to set up those intentional blocks on the emotional pathways. There's discipline and meditation and all that has to go into it too, but there's a physiological aspect.
Yeah, for sure, because they are very strong as well, and I think being physically superior, couple that with their mental superiority, just means that they're able to control themselves a lot better. And without that control now, he's off the leash, so to speak, Mr. Jelly Deals.
You need to get caught up, dude. I'm telling you, you say you're content starved. We gave you the credentials and everything.
You're damn right, man. I honestly wondered if Peck didn't have earplugs in for playing the human parts. The way he kept talking like a person with headphones on who can't judge the noise level. Sorry, have I missed something there?
I think he's just reading like the exuberance that Peck was trying to put into like the human portrayal, like showing the humanity is the opposite of that, kind of Vulcan aspect you've been talking about, that permanent stick up their ass. So I think
Okay.
Peck was doing it to set up like a sharp contrast there to really be like hammer it home.
Yes. Yes, it does make sense. My son of sons. Daniel Vance says Vulcan emotions with a cap versus human emotions with no cap. Yeah, I agree. I agree on that. All right, sorry, let's keep going.
So Spock leaves sickbay, and we see him getting carried away with his humanity in various situations. Kind of mirroring the ones we were shown earlier with the captain. He, is really enjoying the flavors and smells of all the food, like going to town on bacon. He laughs too
I
much in the
I was expecting him.
lounge.
I was expecting him to fatten up because my God, was he eating in this episode?
But
He
the
couldn't stop eating.
it was too short a time frame for that to happen. But if they had done in that longer episode, that would have like longer time frame for the emergence of the problem and the solution of said problem. It would have been really funny to see him like kind of paunch up a little bit. But New Trek, probably wouldn't want to make a joke out of anybody's weight at all because that might upset somebody. Like speaking
Oh
of
God! Oh
upset, he
no!
calls
Oh
out
no!
Sam Kirk, freaking out on him, like threatening to break him over leaving the mess on the briefing table. Talking with Lon after all three of these examples were shown these scenes in like a montage. He explains how intense feeling these human emotions are. She ends up liking it to puberty and says that all he needs to do is work on his impulse control. We
His
cut to
impulse engines.
impulse engine control is down from the gravimetric radiation. Chapel's not making much progress. She's experiencing survivor's guilt and blaming herself for what's happened to Spock and using that as a drive to
How the hell is she experiencing survivor's guilt? Like last season and a bit of this season, she survived a lot of shit. You know what I mean? And now she's fucking experiencing survivor's guilt. Give me a break. But anyway, I totally understand because she's got the heart for Spock. I could spend the rest of my life in that circle with Una, Lana, Ura, and Chapel. Yeah, likewise too, man. Likewise. And even that moment when sorry, I'm not sure if you're there yet, but when Spock was talking to Laan, like he was getting aroused by her presence, even though he was trying to put a cap on it.
Yeah, he's feeling those
getting
weird
horny.
human urges. Yeah, and he's like, "Oh,
Yeah.
too much information." She's like, "Yeah, a little bit." Chapel has almost forgotten her interview for the fellowship. So she rushes out and joins the call. And the Vulcan is cruel. He said that she should have copied that,
What
the
the
essay
fuck was he
word for
wearing,
word.
by the way? Jesus Christ, what sort of outfit was that? I never knew Vulcans wore such stupidness.
It was some cyberpunk stuff. Like go ahead and do like the side of your head shaped like Lebo or the dude from Fifth Element.
Exactly. It definitely looked like a John Paul Gaultier type shit. Yeah.
So he says when she brings up her field work, he says he will glance at it, and he abruptly ends the call. Spock runs into her in the hall and can tell that she's kind of distraught. And he tries to cheer her up, trying to get her to talk about it, and ends up giving her a hug. She's touched. She asks how feeling is going, and he explains that he'll be fine eventually. He gets called by the captain, though, suddenly to come to the transporter room. Apparently, his mother is about to beam on board. Spock arrives at the transporter room wearing a beanie to try to cover up his ears, like the one with the whales, right? Didn't he wear a beanie in that?
Yeah, he didn't wear a beanie in the Wales one. it was back in the TOS era. He wore a beanie.
And the City on the Edge of Forever.
Yeah,
that was it.
in
City on the Edge of Forever.
he basically ripped off a piece of his Vulcan garb, his Vulcan night robe, and wrapped it around his head and made himself look like a Jedi Master or some shit like that, or Danielson. Anyway, RBG clothing. When? What's this mean?
Red, blue, green, like gaming lights all over your clothing.
Oh god, you see, I'm too much of a boomer to get that. I mean, talk to me like I'm fucking old. All right.
We'll speak up, Grandpa. So Spock's mother explains that they have to have this dinner tomorrow, even though they're going to let them have it on Enterprise.
God, she just came in the scene with her fucking tits hanging out, and I'm thinking to myself, damn, you're not Winona Ryder.
Shades of fucking Agnes's dress from season 2 of Picard.
Yeah,
like you try to not pay attention, but you can't.
Spock's mom is hot, man, and she doesn't even look.
I knew you were going to say that. I knew you were going to say that. She doesn't look older than him. She's like,
it could be brother and sister, let alone mom and son.
No,
so,
you're not wrong either. She is very easy on the eyes.
Daniel Vaughn says it was a piece of his cloak he used to cover his ears, 80s style, in the movie that shall not be named. What? The Voyage Home? I mean, there's nothing wrong in that.
So,
God,
we learn about the rituals that Spock's going to have to do at this dinner. He gets really upset when he tries to push it off and say he can't do it, and she just says there's no pushing it off. He ends up yelling at her like a teenager. You just don't get it, Mom. And she figures it out. Her son is not being her son. She pulls off the beady and sees he has human ears.
What I like about all of this is just Pike in the background going, "Oh boy."
He's like, I wish I were anywhere but here right now. This is awkward.
Yeah. And he's pretty much like that the whole fucking episode. I love it because he's got to be there being the captain, but he can't really get involved at the same time. So he's just observing it all. And it's very awkward.
They did a good job of having the other characters there and not be mysteriously absent, while also making it very much a Spock and Chapel episode. I think there was a good balance there. And a lot of times on like your Golden Era stuff, you would just not see certain members of the crew on an episode that was particularly focused on one character if it wasn't one of the ones that they had established that are like kind of their buddy act. You might see Geordi if it's a Data episode, but no security officer or doctor anywhere in sight.
I mean, you do sometimes get episodes which are based around more than one character, but it is nice to encompass the other cast members and have them some use instead of just being disappeared. I mean, I'll tell you who did vanish. It was Hocus Pocus herself, the fucking engineer. You know what I mean? With a fucking 40 a day habit and a fucking red wine drinking voice. So yeah.
It's with her being some sort of guest star. They probably only wrote her into a select couple of episodes. And
I'm looking forward to the episode where they finally need an engineer to be running around like a blue-ass fly, and it'll be interesting to see how they make her,
handle that situation.
Geriatric, how she fucking handles it. Yeah, I look forward to that if it happens.
If Picard can run around and jog up those stairs and all that shit, then she can run around the engine room.
Yeah, I think all I'm saying is I could just imagine her with a cigarette in one hand and a fucking rosé in the other. That's all I can see. She's fucking walking around engineering, telling everyone how amazing she is.
In your mind, she belongs next to Bernard Black in the bookshop.
I'm just, I don't know. She looks. I don't know. It's just she looks like she belongs on fucking Harry Potter. Like she's
She's
it's amazing.
Trelawney's new roommate.
Daniel Vaughn brought up that she was the ghost of Christmas Present in Scrooge, and I can see that now. You know, so she fucking hit Bill Murray with a toaster.
Yeah, that's what she
That,
is. Oh
yeah.
man, that's like my second favorite Christmas movie.
Oh god, what's your favorite? Let me guess. Home Alone.
You would think for my age that it would be, but it's Die Hard.
Oh yeah, of course. And people always forget Die Hard 2 is a Christmas movie as well. But fair enough.
Two's a New Year's movie. That's New Year's Eve weekend.
No, but remember at the end of the film, like the policeman rips up his parking ticket and goes, "It's Christmas," and you remember?
In one, yeah. Then
No, at the
two
end of
is,
two, but
huh?
he gets a parking. Remember, he gets a parking ticket from the policeman's brother, and then the policeman at the end rips up the parking ticket and says it's Christmas. Don't you remember that? And also, by the way, Lethal Weapon's a Christmas movie as well. People forget that too.
Two is the Die Hard I've watched the least. So,
Oh, fair enough. All right, fair enough.
oh God, but I got to get us back on track. I just derailed us hard, my damn self.
It's all right. It's what we do. It's who we are.
Not gonna apologize for being who he is.
Yeah.
This mother-in-law, though, she wants any excuse to end this engagement, to stop the wedding before it happens. So they've got to hide the fact that Spock is a human right now. Amanda hatches a plan to, with Pike's help, teach Spock to lie somehow and conceal the nature of what's going on. She starts breaking down what the rituals are going to be. We learned that the first is a tea ceremony, which doesn't sound so hard in and of itself, but the traditional Vulcan tea kettle does not have any handles. So he's going to have to pick up a scalding hot tea kettle without his Vulcan pain suppression going on. And she just like a boss picks it up and shows it off and makes the symbolic statement, as a human, you living on Vulcan, you learn to suppress your pain.
In my opinion, I would think it would be illogical to not have a handle on a kettle, regardless of pain suppression.
You could maneuver it more easily with a handle.
You can,
Maybe it was just so super old, a traditional one. It was before they had the skill or tech to really craft it. Because that looked really archaic.
Yeah, you can. Daniel Vaughn says it was a piece of cloak he used to cover his ears. Atheist. Oh, sorry. We already mentioned that. Okay, well, we're gonna be getting Cheeto in a second once he changes his name. Yay. Yes, that is stupid, Ryan. Jelly deals. You're damn right. And by the way, Ryan, Google jellied eels and watch some YouTube videos on jellied eels. It's gonna make you pure British, mate. All right, geezer. The old China plate. Daniel Vaughn says scalding metal still causes burns. You can't suppress 2-second-degree burns. You're damn right, Daniel Vaughn. This is why you're the greatest of all time.
Made of like rock or metal. They still have normal skin. He gets cut and he bleeds. He just bleeds green.
I mean, look who it is. It's fucking Dr. Deranged himself.
Yep.
Cousin Cheeto.
That's me.
Yes. You saved some lives today, mate.
I was going to message and say, hey, do you guys want me on or not? But I was like, well.
Always want you on.
Y'all look kind of sad, so I'll come and brighten you up a little bit.
You don't want to ask us our opinion. You just better come on without asking us.
Nah, he knew the answer. But yeah, it's great to have you. Thanks for joining in. Give us your overall thoughts on the episode, and I'll let you. We are as far as them hatching the plot and starting to explain the rituals. We've covered up to the first ritual so far.
I mean, it's all right. I don't know. For me, this episode was a bit of a throwaway one. I mean, they've been shipping Spock and Chapel for a long time, and I know that the TOS purists are going to be like infuriated with this because, there's no indication in TOS that Chapel and Spock were ever a thing. But I still stand beside the fact, and it's something that me and Mage have talked about in the past, is that the First Contact timeline, that Discovery and Strange New Worlds are a part of the First Contact timeline. So anything that happens here doesn't matter. Not that it doesn't matter, but like it doesn't matter to like TOS. You know what I mean? Like to the main canon. So
Well, look, I'm sorry for, but we need to just stop for a second. This whole thing, this whole series is a different timeline. It is definitely. I don't give a fuck what the writers say. This is a different timeline because if you can't explain the fucking Khan's thing from last week, where he's a fucking kid in the 2020s, then what the fuck's going on? This has got to be a different timeline. We have a noonien-singh in this timeline as well, which Spock knows about and Uhura knows about, but they don't seem to know about in the TOS era when they meet a noonien-singh. Like, this is definitely a different timeline, as far as I'm concerned.
yeah, that's why I champion it to be called the First Contact timeline. I mean, it's they like there's a lot of change, and I'm saying from First Contact all the way up through Enterprise, through Discovery and Strange New Worlds. Like that is all a brand new timeline.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, certain things will still play out the same, but it won't be completely the same.
Yeah,
as the original timeline.
They've changed when the eugenics wars will happen. Like that's a huge timeline change when an entire huge conflict that throws
94 to 97, wasn't it?
Yeah, then it throws the entire planet into chaos, and now it's happened decades later. But that's it's the same timeline.
Somebody said that that people like Kurtzman and whoever else who's involved in Star Trek now are trying to constantly retcon things in order to make it still seem like it's in our universe, in mine, yours, Cheeto's universe, and this is going to be our future, which is why they're changing all these things now. But in my opinion, don't bother. just keep going the way it is. You know what I mean? Like, there's a World War III in Star Trek history. When the fuck is that going to happen? Just keep it going.
2050 something, right?
Yeah, 2050 something.
And if they're still making Star Trek by then what? What I mean?
Oh, I know. Riots are supposed to be next year, right, Cheeto?
The what?
The Bell Riots.
Oh yeah, no, the Bell Riots I thought were this year. Was it 2024 or 2023?
I thought it was 2024.
It might be. I'll look it up just to be sure. We got to be right because we're nerds. But no, you're right. It's like right here.
Yes. Spotted. Yeah, I guess. But spotted dick is a fancy dessert. Jelly deals is working man stuff. And I'll be honest with you, I don't know how anyone can eat that shit. It's fucking disgusting. You know what I mean? But not spotted dick is gorgeous. Spotted dick with special sauce.
No,
love it.
2024. Anyway. It is next year. So, but I mean, we are on our way to the Bell Riots. I mean, like with the. I mean, they may not happen. Maybe they'll happen first in the UK. Based on what's going on over there.
I'm just saying, like Star Trek, stop trying to adjust things because they haven't happened in your timeline and compared to our timeline. Like, it's fictional. We all know it is. Just let it go and just be your own universe in all of that sort of stuff. You don't need to think that we are sharing this timeline with you because it's bullshit.
No, I mean, as Ryan is quick to point out, like, human nature is as such as we almost assuredly will never hit that sort of like level of empathy and caring about other people as to end up with a Star Trek type society like the Federation.
Yeah,
not gonna happen.
And by the way, to Ryan's comment here, you're talking about everything your country cooks. If we only cook 3 things: jelly deals, spotted dick, and fish and chips. Nothing else.
No, he's saying that everything you guys cook is terrible.
No, that for me, I feel like that's a disservice because I think our confectionery is some of the best in the world. And we have shit food, don't get me wrong. Which country doesn't?
He's just yanking your chain. He doesn't mean it seriously. He's fucking.
Oh no. There has been, because I'm a boomer. There has been for a long time this joke around about how British food.
You're not
sucks.
A boomer. You're Gen X, dude.
Yeah, I know, but you know what I mean. I'm old. You know what I mean? And so I do remember like people always making fun of British food, and it has become something that is a little bit renowned, a bit of a stereotype, yada yada. But I think I sent you that box for Christmas, didn't I? Remember that? So
Who,
and
me?
you
Yeah.
loved it, yeah. So anyway,
You guys had some good
hey,
sweet.
no, thank you very much. In okay, yeah, I know. Don't worry, Ryan. I know, I love you. Daniel Vaughn says in the TOS Amok time, Chapel shows affection towards Spock as he undergoes pon far. She admitted to her attraction in the naked time. They've never explained whether Spock returned her advances though. Well, we
And
kind of saw that
I
happen
know
at the end of
that.
this episode.
I know that. As I said,
Yeah.
I know that there was an acknowledgement in TOS, but it was like a fleeting like line, like in
Yeah.
an episode. Like nothing like this. Like let's be real. Like nothing like this.
Yeah, this is like I said, this is definitely a whole different timeline, and I don't give a fuck what the makers say until you prove me wrong. I can't see it any other way. So
That's why I'm dubbing it the First Contact timeline, because Enterprise had connections to First Contact, and Discovery had connections to. And I'm not talking about Discovery season 3 and 4. I'm talking about the Discovery seasons 1 and 2. I think Picard Lower Decks are in the Prime timeline. I think Prodigy is in the Prime timeline. Anything though that has happened from like First
no, I think
Contact.
lower decks. I think lower decks is in this timeline because we're going to see the lower decks guys
No, no,
in
no.
this show.
Oh, well, they might cross dimensions. It's kind of like the mirror universe thing. Who knows?
Well,
Maybe.
it might be time travel, which is why we saw in that moment in the trailer, about how Pike knows about his future. And like I said, this is where certain things are parallel. Where Pike's future is still going to be
See,
that. I mean, in the Kelvin timeline, he ended up in a chair as well. Remember that. So, but he wasn't
but
crippled in the
everything
sense
was
like,
different. You're right. I mean, he died
yeah,
differently. And that's I'm agreeing with
yeah.
you. Um,
The Ginger Greek, it is Chef's Kiss, fabulous. Love
this
it. I
episode
mean,
was a throwaway, in
I
my
love
opinion.
this. I love it more than trannies. Um,
This
No, you
season,
don't.
Daniel,
this season's good so far, but not the quality of season one, at least in my
I
opinion.
agree. It's as I
what?
said. I don't think it's bad. I just
No,
don't think
not at
it's
all.
Oh, how many episodes this season?
10.
So,
We're halfway through.
Yep.
Oh my god!
can see the finish
Right.
line already. Speaking of, we'll get back on the road now that we've got kind of Cheeto's general impression of it.
I said the conversation we just had was more interesting than this episode for me. I always have an issue with like Vulcan tradition episodes. Like it's just I'm sorry, like the Vulcan traditions, like, and of course they always peg the Vulcans as like this very uptight, racist race. They really do. Like they're racist against
Yeah.
humans. Your handicaps, like as an enlightened people, it's like you figure that it's very that's why these episodes are, because they always paint the Vulcans to be the bad people in it, and it's like no, like it.
The first time I actually remember seeing Vulcans being actual assholes was when it was in Star Trek 5 where Spock got to see his birth, and then Sarek picks up his son and goes so human, and that was the first time I saw Vulcans in that way, that assholey way. So yeah.
I mean, they might as well be Tellarites at that point. I mean, come on, like at least Tellarites are, endearing.
Vance says the opposite. Well, I can't tell with that fucking picture. Yeah, well, that's Vance for you, isn't it? Like, he's hard to please, so it's a bit like a woman who can't get an orgasm, hard to please.
So yeah, the next ritual is going to, the ladies on the bridge end up coaching him on how to speak like a Vulcan. Tell him he must be more robotic. Raise his eyebrow with not moving any of their muscles on his face.
He wants him to be Dwayne Johnson. Welcome, funeral friend. Join us tomorrow for the Sodomizer podcast, where we'll be talking about political stuff. But right now, we're talking about Strange New Worlds, baby. Hope you've seen the episode.
So That's a kind of funny scene. Ortegas is growing on me still. I hate to admit it, but that bit was pretty funny.
Look, Ortega is fine when she's not quipping and all every 5 minutes but at her station, after being given a fucking order. When she's just being a regular person around regular people, I'm totally fine with that. Being a friend, coming up with all this sort of stuff. But when she's been given the order, and sometimes she almost talks back to the captain sometimes with her quips, I'm thinking to myself, just shut the fuck up, do your order, and fucking fly the goddamn ship. You know what I mean?
No, hard agree. Not gonna get it.
Remember Julian
It's really good stuff.
Bashir in season 1 was pretty unbearable. Like DS9's my favorite, but like Julian Bashir season 1 was unbearable.
He was just a straight up fuckboy.
Yeah, and I'm glad he got better over the years.
He had a lot of growth.
Funeral Friend, yeah, it's really good. I think it's the best new Trek. Maybe that with Lower Decks from the Kurtzman era for sure.
Oh, we don't give any credit that's anything good to Kurtzman. Nothing good can come from Kurtzman. It all has to be bad.
Yeah, you have to. Yeah, you're not allowed to change your mind.
Hey, no, I think if this season is really good, this is also what was the guy who did Picard? Why am I forgetting his name? Starts with Metalis? No, Metalis.
That one who produced season 3. Yeah.
That
was Terry
Strange New Worlds season 2, season 1, all Metalis. I mean, it was just all him. Because it's good. Give him Star Trek because no one else can do Star Trek.
Yeah, and even season 3 wasn't perfect, but still. Anyway.
So next we find out about the ritual of awareness, where Spock's going to have to try to stay calm while they tell him everything that's wrong with him.
This is what's so good about this episode, Cheeto. Like, it was funny. You know what I mean? It was a comedic episode. Didn't you find that stuff really good?
I find it funny, but you know what I thought when this part was going on? I said we should have a what is it called? A what of awareness?
It was the ritual of awareness.
The ritual. We should have a ritual of awareness on NerdTube. We should just all get together and just haul off on each other.
We would end up being more like the airing of grievances from Festivus. I'm afraid,
dude. I do that all the time. It'll be like, okay, we're gonna do that on this particular day. Yeah, I call that Wednesday. Yeah, so it'll be.
Well, I guess us over here in the US are a little bit nicer, I guess.
I'm just talking about me individually. I like seeing the characters before Kirk and the others from. Yeah, this is what Strange New Worlds is, by the way. It's it's supposed to be before TOS, but we've been discussing that it might be still a different timeline, but it's still regarding timeline years. It's still before TOS. Daniel Vance says, sit on the planet Metalis. The Matalans are looking for metallite to save the universe. And by the way, if you Google Matalan, you can get discount clothes from there here in the UK. It's a good shop.
Okay. Nope, he's got to name everything Metalis that he did.
Yeah.
Daniel Vance, you're absolutely correct. So the third ritual is going to be a mind meld with his mother. But he's he can't pull it off right now because of being fully human, and he's not going to be able to fake it. His mother's ready to give up, but Spock, he says they're just going to have to hope that Chapel manages to get the treatment ready before they get to the final ritual. When
do we start cutting to Chapel, by the way? Because it feels like we've been on Spock and his ritual for ages. Yeah. Easy like Sunday morning bend over. I'm on hard mode today because I just can't keep. That's why you're seeing the upper half of my body because it's on hard mode, so I have to tuck it down there. Anyway.
No, Chapel's in sickbay struggling. She's not making any progress. Can't get the genomes to stabilize, even if using Dr. Mbenga's experimental treatments. She decides that she's got to go and convince the Carovians.
Who gives her the idea? Because it wasn't her idea; it was somebody else.
No,
Somebody else gave
I
it.
thought that she just was kind of like
She said the only way is to go and talk the Carovians into.
Yeah, I think she really.
them.
Yeah, I think she came to the conclusion. I think she figured it out. Yeah. So Roy Ivy's with us today. Welcome, Roy. Sounds like the Seinfeld airing.
Yep, the airing of grievances from Festivus.
Oh God, I wish I could remember that. Speaking of awareness, let me get this straight. They are aware Spock is currently psychologically a human, but they are having him do Vulcan rituals. Yeah, because he's just so you get it, Spock was injured, and these super aliens healed him, but by healing him, they made him fully human.
Well, technically, the crash killed him. I think they said, but
the
aliens brought him back to life and healed him,
and made him fully human. And by doing so, Spock has to. Unfortunately for Spock, the timing was bad because he has to go through this Vulcan ritual, but he has to do it now as a human, and he's also going through. And he's also going through like human emotions as well, and he likes to eat food, and he like the sort of like physical state his body's in is like that prepubescent sort of state, like he's like a teenager, you know what I mean? So his hormones are raging and stuff like that. Even when he's talking to another female officer, he's getting a Woody doing so.
That was noonien-singh, La'an.
La'an, yeah.
I mean,
that was hilarious.
I wouldn't. I'd bang La'an too. I mean,
La'an's hot, man. Especially when I saw her play the princess last season. Man, she looked gorgeous as a princess, and her acting was fantastic as well.
Oh yeah.
So yeah. Sorry. Reschedule.
Chapel goes and she talks Uhura Ortegas into going with her on the shuttle to go try to contact the Krakovians. They tell her, it's pretty crazy, but they're gonna go with. In the transporter, go for it.
They're like a call center in space.
Yeah, the contact customer service because you're not happy with the way your friend's life was saved.
Exactly, yeah. Will Nurse Chapel's plan work? Ancient astronaut Ferris say yes. Well, maybe this is where I would like to have this episode being a two-parter, because I was having a lot of fun with Spock being a human. And look at that. Look at Cheeto, Mr. Bland. How dare ya?
It's not that. I mean, like, even it's just I wasn't feeling this episode. Like, if you're saying like you want him to be human for a little bit, that's fine. Like, let's make it a couple episodes where he's a human. But do I want to make this story a two-parter? No, I really don't.
No. I mean, they could resolve the ritual shit in one episode, but I would like to have seen them maybe have to go on an away mission as a human being. That would be interesting as well.
I mean, okay, that I'll give you. Like, if like part 2 was them like going into the interdimensional space, and then Spock as a human, or them having to go to another planet to figure out some kind of ancient gene resequencing in the waters of Mandalore or something. I don't know, but
he's a human being. He's a human being, Mr. Jelly Deals, not a Terminator. Anyway, you look like a Terminator with that shirt on.
I'll be back. Wow! Get in the chopper. Give me your clothes and your bike.
Get in your chopper. That's fucking Predator. But anyway, it's Andy.
In the transporter room, Amanda reassures Spock before T'Pring comes aboard. She's kind of got a plan that Spock can go and tell T'Pring what's going on while she delays the mother and father-in-law. But T'Pring beams on board, but in the hallway, he can't bring himself to tell her that, she starts talking about how exhausted she is from dealing with her mother, and he just seems to not want to burden her with that.
Yeah.
He kind of, when he's hiding, that he was laughing at one of her dry Vulcan jokes, he's like, "Oh, sorry, I'm choking." She goes, "Well, if you make one mistake, my mother will end this engagement." They go to Pike's quarters to start the dinner, and the hypercritical mother and the henpecked father arrive. They quickly establish the dynamic where he will quickly change his mind into is to instantly match her own.
Well, but we've seen lots of couples like this where the father is a bit more laid back and the mother has got to stick up her fucking ass. These things are more human traits than people realize. I've seen couples like this, often on this planet.
It's a very human kind of dynamic for sure in that relationship, and it's just one of those things, putting in a dynamic between people that we're used to and associate with and can get, is one of the things that made this episode feel more like a sitcom to me.
Mm-hmm.
The Spock, the mother asked what's wrong with him, why they had to have the dinner here, and he says that it was nerve damage. He ends up accidentally pointing out, his eyebrows look different when he claims that they were singed. And
by the way, you're damn right about the sitcom. Come to think of it, I can, with all the scenarios and things that have happened in this episode, I really can imagine some canned laughter in the background.
I was about to say it needed a laugh track for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
It was entertaining for sure, but it's not your typical episode of Star Trek.
Yeah.
So he deflects by bringing up that Pike has cooked traditional Vulcan food for them. The dad likes it, but the mother points out that it's deviating from tradition.
And by the way, but that's the other trope, and I know we mentioned it a minute ago, but it's just like, the dad's like, "Oh, this is great. Oh, this is delicious," and then the mom's like, "It's adequate. It's blah blah blah." It's like, oh god, and
she hasn't even tried it.
Yeah, it's just like, come on, like, why are we does she have to be a villain? Like, I get it, she doesn't need to be likable, but there are people that are not likable that still, like, they don't have to be like a villain, because she felt more like they were portraying her as a villain rather than
she was
she was definitely the villain of the episode.
She was more of an antagonist than the Kirkovians, even though they're the ones that created the situation.
I never looked at the Kirkovians as antagonists at all, but
no, they were kind of ambivalent.
But the mother was definitely the closest thing to one. But we've seen Vulcans be assholes, for a long time. I think since Enterprise, the one significant thing. Well, I don't want to say it's one significant thing, but a significant thing Enterprise did bring to the table was the character traits of Vulcans and how assholery they can be. And we see that level of assholery played out, by to Prill's mom. I loved it. It was fantastic. It's just what you expect Vulcans to be like. So and they do think they're superior to humans because they gave us warp drive. So they improved our warp drive. Let's say that.
So the mom says that she wants to get the show on the road. Enough with the bad human attempts at Vulcan food. We cut to the shuttle above Cracovia, and Uhura says that she needs to be closer to get the signal through due to all the radiation and interference. They come up with a crazy plan to kind of wedge themselves in the portal. Uhura's like, well, it's a transport tunnel. It's going to be mostly empty on the other side. Chapel brings up that she can't ask her friends to go with this clearly suicidal mission with her, but they basically volunteered. They say they're here with her to support her, and they go for it and are promptly pulled through. In Pike's quarters,
comment here. She was a Vulcan Laxwana Troy, simply annoying. The Prill was, I guess. And by the way, tech support is my middle name. It comes with being my race. So there you go. Go on.
So they get to the tea ceremony, and Spock manages to pick up the scalding hot teapot without, showing his pain. The tea is deemed acceptable by the mother. Chapel and company have found themselves in interdimensional space, and they're greeted by one of the Krakowian
How did
energy
they get
entities.
there? How did they get there? Like
They got sucked through the portal thing, I guess. It's just all the sci-fi elements were just glossed over heavily. Like they get.
I want to see them. Yeah, I want to see them get off their ship and end up there. I want to see those moments, not just 1 minute they're in a shuttle, and next minute they're standing in the hallway of a fucking call center of super intelligent aliens. No. I need more than that.
Maybe they're experiencing
I need the bridge.
Maybe they're experiencing it in their own minds, like when Cisco's with the wormhole aliens.
Well, anyway.
But this is a different entity. This one's not yellow. It goes by the designation blue. It's blue. And Chapel asks them to help fix Spock. But this complaint is outside the acceptable complaint window, and she.
So it's in the call center.
So they asked to speak to her supervisor.
Yeah, he's yellow.
Give me the first one I talked with. I could understand them better.
Yeah.
So the ritual of awareness comes next, and Amanda, she's gentle and kind of constructive with her criticism of T'Pring. T'Pring's mother instantly goes, "Your humanity's hindering the ceremony." T'Pring that says the little line that invites her mom to criticize her. She says, "No, you already know everything I think's wrong with you, but Spock, oh," and she just lays into him, accuses him of abandoning Vulcan, of failing Sarek, and just by choosing Starfleet over everything else. He has to excuse himself to go to the restroom where he punches the air and screams into a towel.
Dude, I just wanted him to look at her and be like Zachary Quinto in the Kelvin would be like, "Live long and prosper," like with that cynical like.
Yeah, that really means live fast and get fucked.
Yeah, right. Like,
he calls the doctor and is like, "Please tell me you've got the cure." He's like, "No, Chapel's went to try to talk the Krakowians into fixing you." And Spock, he freaks out. He's worried about Chapel. We cut back to them, and Chapel has to struggle with identifying her feelings and putting them into words to convince Yellow that their connection is strong enough to justify her being able to make the complaint outside the window. Yellow reveals that Spock moved the shields around on the ship at the last moment to protect Nurse Chapel, and that's why she wasn't injured in the crash and only he was and needed repairing. She ends up touchingly explaining to the entity that she's Spock's friend, but she wishes they had more of a connection, and she pleads for them to make him back the way he was, even though once they do, he won't get her feelings as well, but she wants him to be who he actually is. In Pike's quarters, it's time for the meld finally, and Pike stalls by bringing up the important human tradition of charades.
This was hilarious.
No, this was like, I get it. It's very camp, so it's very TOS, but it's like, I kind of rolled my eyes and I'm like, oh, so this is the name of the episode. Okay, got it.
Yeah, no, I was just like, "Come and knock on our door. We'll be waiting for you."
Yeah,
again,
it was
stalling for time, wasn't he? He was stalling for time. He was doing whatever he could.
But it wasn't even, to me, it wasn't even funny because we didn't even get to see charades with Vulcans. Like, if you're going to at least do that, at least give us the payoff of seeing Vulcans doing charades.
I agree.
Right?
They teased us. Maybe season 3, they can put it in the trailer shot of the whole family playing charades.
Yeah,
that'll get us to come back on Vulcan. That'll get us to come back for sure.
I just wanted the dad to like just stand up and divorce the mom like right then and there. Like
it's like, I'm sick of all this.
I'm sick of all this. I want to play charades. I want to play charades, Karen.
She is a total Karen. Chapel arrives in the nick of time with the cure. Hello, Boomer. So T'Pring knowingly looks at Spock and Chapel as they go to administer the cure. when they get into the other room, Chapel asks Spock why he did what he did. He pretty much is about to confess his feelings for her and explain when she just injects him with the stuff, says he needs to go, and she excuses herself. Spock ends up doing the meld with his mother. She picks a memory of her dropping him off at school, and T'Pring proclaims that the dinner is over, that the rituals have been performed to her satisfaction. She claims she's impressed with Spock. She never would have thought a half-human would pull it off despite their handicap. He gets incensed and asks if she thinks it was possible. Yeah. And
I need to go to the bathroom.
He gets even more indignant. He rips off his prosthetics. He's like, I've been a human this whole time. Dun, dun, dun. He expresses his pride and admiration for his mother and says how it couldn't have been easy dealing with the ostracization that she faced from all the Vulcans, and that took true strength to endure it, and not weakness. So we cut to T'Pring and Spock speaking after this whole thing, and she's understandably upset. He claims that he didn't tell her about the situation. He claims that he didn't want to burden her, but she goes, after everything we went through, you just don't trust me. And she asks for them to have time apart. Chapel gets her rejection call from the Vulcan, but she flips the scene upside down on him by telling him about her adventure in interdimensional space and getting the cure, meeting these entities. Says, but if you want to know more, you can read about it in my paper. And he's like, huh? It tells him that the fellowship's not ready for her, and she hangs up the call this time. Pike pours him and Spock drinks, and Pike explains that maybe it's time to learn about commiseration. We go to the transporter room where Spock is seeing his mother Amanda off, and he asks why she chose that memory, and she says that was the first time she ever saw her son accepted. He apologizes for not noticing the rejection that she had faced over the years and focusing only on his journey to become, understand his Vulcan side. She says it's not easy being a human that loves Vulcans. We go to, and she means it as much about his father as she does Spock himself. She's hoping that Spock thinks it's only about Sarek, but it's about him too.
Yeah.
So we cut to Spock in his room, and he's got this look on his face. He's thinking things over, going through a lot. And Chapel rings his doorbell. She's come to visit. He tells her about going on break with T'Pring. She asks how he feels about it, and he admits that he has mixed feelings about it, that it needed to happen because he's got feelings for someone else. He proceeds to confess these feelings for her. She kisses him. He asks for clarification. Well, what does this mean? She just says shut up. Goes back to kissing him. The implication and credits.
Oh, Ross and Rachel got together.
You just tell by the look of his. Sorry, I might be talking in my sleep here, so I'm not going to say it. All right.
No, we've gone long. Do we have the poll up?
Oh, yeah, no. Sorry, I was all out of sorts.
Yeah,
I'll
no
get it
problem.
up. You guys go ahead and start. I'll get it up.
Okay. What are your final thoughts and kind of overall impression of the episode? We'll start with you, Zam, and then we'll get Mark at the end of that.
I thought it felt like it could have been a Chapel episode as well. I think Chapel was significant, but it was slightly more Spock overall. And this was a very good Freaky Friday episode with only a one body swap, and it was more of a personality swap than a body swap. It was more like big than anything else. Ethan Peck's acting was phenomenal. I mean, he's playing Spock, but he has to play him differently. And you have to still he has to still remind you that he's playing Spock and not somebody else, and he has to play Spock going through emotions and being, very petulant as well, and all of this because he's playing like an adolescent Spock because of what's happened to him. And then you have to throw in the comedy elements as well because it requires comical timing, which I thought was there too. Phenomenal. I was laughing my ass off watching this episode. It was hilarious. I had a really good time. It's good to see Star Trek not take itself too seriously, but still remain Star Trek at the same time. This is what's so great about this show. One minute it could be a very sad episode. 1 minute it could be a very enlightening episode, or in this case, a very funny episode. And Star Trek needs more of this. It does. It really needs a lot more of this. So I'm giving this episode. I'm gonna give it a 10. I had a really good time with this. I had a really look at you with the fucking Dwayne Johnson Cheeto. I was gonna give it a 9, but I'm giving it a 10. There is no, you know what? No, I'll give it a 9 because my only issue with this episode was the alien entity itself. I want them if this alien entity is a big deal, and it felt like it was not a big deal as it should have been after they were discovered, and regardless of regardless of what Spock had to go through, I think as captain of the Enterprise, Pike would have told him, okay, I know you're going through these problems and we'll try and resolve them at the same time, but we've made first contact with this new species. Your ritual has to be put back, I'm afraid, Spock. Something along those lines. Like he should have pulled rank on him there and then and tried to discover this alien species because they were phenomenally amazing. They weren't like any other alien species they've ever really come across. They're an entity in space. So I thought that was the only thing. So yeah, I'll give it a 9. I'll give it a 9 because something like that has to take more priority than Spock's Freaky Friday moment. So yeah, I had a great time though.
Valid criticism for sure, though, but I can see what you enjoyed about it. Cheeto, go down to you.
I'm gonna give it a 6. I mean, as I said, it's kind of it's not a bad episode, but it's a throwaway episode for me. As I said, I mean, the evil Vulcan Karen mom just felt a little too much. And as I said, it's kind of a trope at this point with the Vulcans, like
being assholes.
Yeah, and it's just like, I don't know. I feel like it could have been handled better. The whole Spock Chapel thing, great, I guess. As I said, I mean, I like them kind of together, but at the same time, Spock as a human was fun. I mean, that's the highlight of the episode right there. And Ethan Peck being able to stretch his legs as a human Spock, for this one, rather than a struggling emotionally Vulcan or half Vulcan, half human Spock struggling with his emotions. This was just full on, hey, you're whole on human. Go wild. Use your emotions. Use your range as an actor. So that is nowhere near my, a complaint on this episode is the highlight.
Nurse Chapel throwing back the job in those Vulcans' faces, I did like, because
she threw what?
She threw she threw it. She was off. She tried to get a job working with those those Vulcans, but in my opinion, she should have been miserable if she did that. I'm glad she didn't do that. She needs to be around people who are gonna have a laugh and a joke with her, and she's never gonna get that with Vulcans ever. So yeah, I'm very happy that she didn't get that job.
Yeah, she's too vivacious of a person for that.
Yeah.
She loves live shows.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so I enjoyed this episode. I was entertained by it as a TV show. The acting was phenomenal out of Peck and Jess Bush also. There was character development, but it developed a plot line that honestly I've got no interest in. Like the shipping of Spock and Chapel, just it doesn't do it for me. It doesn't upset me or something, but it just doesn't do it for me.
But what it's not will they, won't they anymore. I mean, one thing I do like is that it's now they have done it. Like, okay,
right.
But now, in the episode, they made out, they shagged, all of that. It's going to be interesting to see what Chapel's going to be like because now she's conquered Spock. Is she going to go back to being that sort of person who just likes to, find them, fuck them, and forget them? I mean, the three Fs, as I like to call it. Is she going to do that with Spock? Because she was a very free living young lady, who just had casual sex with people, which is fair enough because there's nothing wrong in that. But now she's got Spock in the bag. Does she want a relationship with him, or will she want to find somebody else to fucking
now
conquer?
Now she's going for Pike.
Yeah.
I want that Pike. Get on the Pike.
She got to go
get on that hairband.
Yeah, exactly. So
that being said, I'm gonna give it a 7. I was entertained, but wasn't really feel like a Trek episode. If it was being played like a Trek episode, like Zam said, the focus would have been on this first contact. Instead, we got this comedy episode that focused on Spock and then to a lesser extent Chapel. But now I get why they've been playing Spock for laughs all season, though. They were getting us used to that as a concept, I think, so that it didn't feel so alien, pun intended, when he turned human, and they played this whole episode for laughs. But that has been our opinions. What did the chat say? What did they come up with?
Just a couple of comments here. I'm not sure if I read this one already. Seems like most of Spock's drama would have been avoided by simply saying, "Oh my God, Spock got turned into a human by some crazy alien guys." So let's not, expect him to behave normally. Yeah, but we're talking about
racist Vulcans.
We're talking about racist Vulcans here, and they were too. Maybe look, I think Spock was just worried that he wasn't going to end up with T'Pring, and regardless of the tragedy that's happened to him, that he'd become a human, that would have probably ended his chances with T'Pring, even if he was able to resolve the issue. This episode was nothing to open hailing frequencies over. A funny moment, but overall, the low point. What? Seriously, him and Ginger Greek are birds of a feather, man. Roy
I give it
says,
a 6. I mean,
great episode, but definitely not the original timeline. Yeah, I've been saying that, Roy. Definitely not. I've been saying that after last week with Khan as a kid in the 2020s. There is something.
That was 2 weeks.
There's something that's there's something that's not quite cricket regarding all of this shit. You know what I mean?
That was allegedly like an alternate timeline. So, but still, there are the continuity things with the crew members knowing of Khan when Kirk and crew had no idea who he was when they brought Botany Bay on board.
And they have a noonien-singh obviously on there as well, which
and that's kind of the thing that that I'm like. Okay, so in Picard at the end of season 2, he had the Khan manila folder the file that was dated for 1997. So that is obviously prime timeline because that is when the eugenics wars happened. So so that's why I say Picard is definitely in the prime timeline. That's why I say though that this timeline, albeit maybe Mage is right, maybe it was an alternate timeline, but I feel like it's just the past. Like I think it's confirming that hey, Strange New Worlds is its own thing and it's different, timeline. So I want to say it's a part of the First Contact timeline. We'll get into that. We keep promising it, but one day we'll get there.
Which also means that then so is Discovery, and possibly Lower Decks as well.
No, that
definitely Discovery. Definitely Discovery.
Definitely Disco, for sure. Disco.
Anything with that different aesthetic, like Discovery, even Enterprise, I would say, is a part of an alternate timeline. I'm sorry, there's going to be similarities between the prime timeline and this one, but I really feel like everything leading from First Contact up through, Discovery or Enterprise, Discovery, Strange New Worlds is all a new time. Yeah, a new timeline. And I'm dubbing it the First Contact timeline.
And the Lower Decks, by the way, Lower Decks is nostalgia bait because they love to throw back to past episodes of Star Trek in all the shows, and those were apparently the same timeline but Lower Decks isn't if it's on Strange New Worlds. It's all very confusing. Yeah, it's all very. It could be a different dimension, Sing Cheetah. You could be right there. So different dimension and time travel. So yeah, it's too fucking much. Enjoy the Northern Lights tonight for those lucky enough. I have actually seen the Northern Lights when I was in Reykjavik, Iceland. It was a bit faded, but I was able to see it, and you know what? It was all right.
Just like this episode is all right.
It was all right. Yeah, it was all right.
The opinions are in. I want to thank everybody who's joined us tonight for this NerdTube Star Trek episode review. Make sure if you haven't subscribed yet, consider doing that. We do all sorts of content here, not just sci-fi, but MCU, DCU, sports entertainment, food reviews, Zam likes gangster shows. Every Friday night, we have the podcast of various names. The world's gone insane. Let's chat about it. Or Zam, what do you call it again, boss?
The Sodomizer podcast. But I just want to add that tomorrow we're going to be talking about various things. I think we're going to do a little bit of a Secret Invasion review tomorrow as well. Because honestly, this we got so much shit to deal with as adults. It's very hard to fit that review in with all the other shows that we have to deal with. So we're going to talk very briefly about that. We're also going to talk about the rumors that the next James Bond movie might be set in the 1960s. And so, yeah, which would be interesting to talk about that. And on top of that, if you've seen the casting for the new Superman movie, it seems that the DC universe is repeating the same mistakes again by making a solo film bloated with additional cast members of the DC universe, when it should really be focused solely on Superman and nobody else. You know, they should be following the same rules the MCU did at the beginning of Phase 1, when most of their films were mainly about particular characters. Yes, you had a bit of Black Widow. Yes, you had a little bit of Hawkeye. But overall, you had 4 solo films, and then Black Widow and Hawkeye also joined in when you had the Avengers movie. So I think that's the sort of route DC should be going. But nope, they're going to put all the eggs in one basket in the first Superman movie. We're going to discuss that. Obviously, you could tell I'm not happy about that myself. But yeah, those are some of the things we'll be talking about, as well as a bit of politics and a bit of this and a bit of that. So yeah. Okay.
Definitely something for everybody on that one. So that's something you don't want to miss. Make sure to come and join in the chat. Definitely always talk about what chat wants to as well during that. So, yep, please give this a like if you've had fun joining us tonight for this episode review. I've been Mage Rage. This has been Zam. That's been Cousin Cheeto. And you've been watching NerdTube, the best channel that you've maybe kind of sort of heard of. Live long and prosper.